So before we start the video, I'd like to ask you guys to please consider subscribing to the channel and liking the video, as it helps the channel grow. So let's get into it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, the Bears head coaching search has come to an end. Very quick coaching search this time around. The Bears did not mess around this time. The Bears have hired former offensive coordinator from the Detroit Lions, the guy everybody wanted. Ben Johnson will be the new head coach of the Chicago Bears next season. He is finalizing a deal today as of the recording of this video. In this video, per usual, I'm going to give my overall thoughts on the move. I'm going to show you guys how we got to this point, which other teams were in the running for Ben Johnson and how the Bears were able to get him, why Ben Johnson chose this job, what he brings to the table, how his staff is probably going to be looking, and just give my overall thoughts on the move in general. So without further ado, guys, let's get into it. What's up, guys? KT here, back at it with another video, and today we are doing the Bears. I kind of swore to myself that I would never make a Bears video, or at least not to the frequency as I was making them previously. But this news was just too juicy and too good to let pass by, and I figured I just wanted to give my overall thoughts on the move that the Bears just made. So unless you've been living under a rock, you've heard that the Bears finally agreed to terms with former offensive coordinator from the Detroit Lions, Ben Johnson, to become their next head coach. Overall, this is a move that I'm really pleased with. I'm going to give some little bit of backstory on how we got to this point if you're not a Bears fan. So, so coming into the season, the Bears had high hopes. I'll give a little bit of synopsis on what happened. The Bears had high hopes. They had just drafted Caleb Williams, Rome Odunze, and multiple other draft picks. They had signed a couple guys in free agency, and they were expecting to make a run in the NFC North. And for the first first 6 games of the season, we felt like the team was trending upwards. Yes, they lost a few games early in the season, but after that Rams game, they kind of went on a little bit of a win streak, and they were able to get some things done in this season. So with that being said, after the Jaguars game, after we beat the Jaguars in London in week 6, we had a bye week in week 7. We come back week 8, and we have that devastating loss to the Washington Commanders by a Hail Mary loss. Ever since that point last season, after that, the Bears went on a losing streak like nobody else's. They fired their offensive coordinator mid-season. They then proceeded to do some of the dumbest things as far as play clock management, play calling, and everything else. And for the rest of Matt Eberflus's turn, the final straw that broke the camel's back, in which we knew we were going to need another head coach, even if we didn't know it before then. The final straw that broke the camel's back was when we lost that game to the aforementioned Detroit Lions on Thanksgiving, in a game that we were driving down the field, and we all know what happened on Thanksgiving. They let the clock run out. The Bears lose in the most devastating and puzzling fashion. That was pretty much it for Matt Eberflus. He was fired on November 29th, a couple days after Thanksgiving. Thomas Brown takes over as the interim head coach. A little bit of hope was birthed into the team, into the fan base, but again, we then continued to struggle and struggle. We did take another embarrassing loss to the Detroit Lions later that season, or later last season, at home, in a game in which Ben Johnson showcased his talents of play calling right in front of our very eyes. So we continue to lose until we finally win a game in week 18 against the Green Bay Packers in Lambeau Field, in a shocker, and which basically destroyed the Green Bay Packers season and their playoff run. So that pretty much ended our season. We went 5-12. Other than the Green Bay win, it was pretty much of a disaster of a season. So yeah. So we let Thomas Brown go, and then we get to the process of getting, candidates in for our head coaching search. Previously, it was believed that Mike Vrabel, Pete Carroll, and all these guys were strong favorites for the head coaching job. The Bears cast a very wide net for their head coaching search. Now, But everybody knew once the season ended, we all had one common coach in mind. We knew that the Bears should hire Ben Johnson. Now, the Bears hired multiple different candidates, but their main priority was Ben Johnson this offseason when he came available. And there were multiple other teams that had Ben Johnson on their radar. The Raiders, of course, for the past week or so, many people were talking about the Raiders as a possible suitor for Ben Johnson, along with the Jacksonville Jaguars. But because of the Detroit Lions being in the playoffs, it was presumed that we were going to have to wait until after the championship game to see, if the Lions were going to make it that far. Many people had the Lions going to the Super Bowl, so the wait could have extended till then. Well, that didn't happen. The Detroit Lions got shell-shocked at home in the divisional round against the Washington Commanders. Jaden Daniels comes in and shocks the Detroit Lions, and that changes everything for this coaching search. Now, my speculation is that, Ben Johnson watched Jaden Daniels win in their home building and just completely dwarf the Lions defense. He watched Jared Goff throw numerous interceptions after interception and turn the ball over. And, after the Lions lost, that accelerated the coaching search. So it really came down to two teams. It was between the Chicago Bears and the Las Vegas Raiders. The Jaguars were out of contention because they kept their GM. I don't think that really mattered like that. I just don't think he was going to Jacksonville anyway. With that being said, the only other team that was a possible suitor for Ben Johnson was the Raiders, because Tom Brady was making a very big push for Ben Johnson. The Raiders had fired their GM. They fired Antonio Pierce. Tom Brady actually got to call one of his games, especially against the Washington Commanders. He had a chance to talk to him in person, which should have been considered tampering. But I digress. So all through last week, we were hearing that the Raiders were really gaining steam against the Chicago Bears for Ben Johnson. Well, just 2 days ago, or at least yesterday, when I woke up yesterday morning, I saw on CBS that the Bears were gaining hardcore momentum for Ben Johnson, and it was really gaining steam. And just yesterday, he chose to become the head coach of the Chicago Bears. His agency announced, and that's how we got to this point. Now, the Raiders made a big push, but at the end of the day, I really think Ben Johnson had it in his mind where he wanted to go all along. Despite Tom Brady tampering and despite them firing their GM, there was many different things that the Raiders did not have that the Bears do, and I'm going to get into that now. The Bears' number one thing that they had over the Raiders was the quarterback situation. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. Jared Goff is a great quarterback. He's a great quarterback. He's a good regular season quarterback. But when it comes to the playoffs and you need to win something and you need to be clutch and you need to not turn the ball over, he's one of the worst quarterbacks that I've seen in the playoffs. And Ben Johnson, sitting on that sideline, watched Jaden Daniels, a young quarterback who can make plays with his legs, who can improvise, who can play off script, who has a great arm, and has a good situation around him with decent talent around him, come into the Lions building and completely shell-shock them. I kind of think that played a role into where Ben Johnson wanted to go. That's the main reason why he chose the Bears, was because they had Caleb Williams, who's pretty similar to Jaden Daniels, even probably a little bit better than Jaden Daniels, just doesn't have the coaching or the offensive line talent. That's one thing that the Raiders didn't have. The Raiders did everything else. They had fired the GM, they had fired the coach, they had Tom Brady kind of calling the shots, but the one thing they didn't have is they didn't have the quarterback situation right. They didn't have a quarterback that was better than Caleb Williams upcoming. Yes, the Raiders had a top 10 pick with number 6, but it's not high enough to get any of the two quarterback prospects that are going to be considered really, really good in Shedeur Sanders and Cameron Ward. And on top of that, There's no free agent quarterback out there right now that's better than Caleb Williams. There was a rumor that maybe Sam Darnold or Hendon Hooker would be in Las Vegas if Ben Johnson were to go there. But at the end of the day, there's not much you can do with Hendon Hooker, as he hasn't really played like that. And Sam Darnold is just like Jared Goff in that regard, in which he cannot win games in the playoffs. And he struggled mightily against the Los Angeles Rams. And that just wasn't going to go well at all. Besides, the Giants are pretty much making a push for Sam Darnold anyway. So that was probably never going to happen. Another reason that Ben Johnson chose the Bears over the Raiders is they have a little bit more flexibility with their roster, man. Like I previously said, and their staff as well. Like I previously said, the quarterback situation was probably the main reason. But as you go team by team and you look at the roster compared to the Raiders roster, and you compare these two rosters together, the Bears clearly have the more complete roster in terms of skill position players. You know, the Raiders have Brock Bowers, who's really, really good. They still have Jacoby Myers, who's okay. But other than those two guys, you know, are those two guys better than Rome Odunze, DJ Moore, Cole Kmet, Keenan Allen, if they re-sign him, DeAndre Swift, and others? And Brock Bowers is a great talent, but that's pretty much all they have there in Las Vegas. Plus, we're just talking about the offensive side of the ball. We're not even talking about the defensive side of the ball, because being a head coach means being the head coach. You're coaching the entire team. And the Raiders, they have Matt Crosby, and that's pretty much it. I think the linebacker's name is Spillane. That's pretty much it. The Bears have a Pro Bowler in Jalen Johnson, a young ascending corner in Kyler Gordon, a young impressionable corner in Tyreek Stevenson, a young safety in Jaquan Brisker, a trusted veteran in Kevin Byard, premier pass rusher in Montez Sweat, two good linebackers in Tremaine Edmonds and TJ Edwards, you know, a young developing player in Gavon Dexter Jr., a top 10 pick in which they could fill out the team a little bit more. So, you know, pound for pound, roster for roster, the Bears roster is better than the Las Vegas Raiders. And I think that's another reason why he came to this team, as he just sees this team is just a little bit closer. Had it been for some better coaching, we stuck it out with a lot of these teams in our own division. We stuck it out with the Green Bay Packers, and we were able to beat them. We stuck it out with the Minnesota Vikings in our first matchup, in which we were almost able to beat them. We stuck it out with the Detroit Lions in our first matchup on Thanksgiving and almost beat them. So, you know, with a little bit of better coaching and a little bit more talent on that roster compared to the Las Vegas roster, plus going against better competition and probably better coaches in, you know, the Raiders division. You got Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, Justin Herbert, and Jim Harbaugh, you know, Bo Nix and Sean Payton. That division is tough compared to the NFC North, which is still a very tough division. You know, Sam Darnold is going to revert back to Sam Darnold if they even keep him. You know, Jordan Love, we beat Jordan Love now. And you know he struggles with turning the ball over. And he struggles with beating Ben Johnson. And now with Dan Campbell losing both coordinators, and Aaron Glenn and Ben Johnson, who are probably going to take head coaching jobs, especially Aaron Glenn, we don't know how that Detroit Lions team is going to look. So this Bears team has the highest ceiling of any team that Ben Johnson could have signed with. And the last reason I think he probably signed here was the Bears have almost $60 million in cap space, with room to make more, and a top 10 pick. When you don't need that quarterback, man, that top 10 pick is valuable. So you can use that to spend on other positions. You can use that to spend in a trade to get a premier player. It could be a tackle. It could be a pass rusher. It could be another receiver. It could be a running back. It could be anything. Or you could just pick a player at 10, and any one of those players could become a great player at 10 if they're doing the right thing. Pair that with the fact that the Bears have $60 million in cap space, plus the ability to make more cap space, and that opens up free agent destinations. You know, even though the free agent class isn't all that good, you know, it opens up abilities to sign talented players. The Bears don't need that much. They definitely need offensive line help, and they need defensive line help. Those are the two biggest needs on this team. Maybe another running back, but with $60 million in cap space, you can fill out that roster the way he wants to. He can get his players in that he wants to. He can let some guys go and bring in some guys with him. You know, there are free agents that are coming available from that Lions team that he can bring with him as well. Plus, there are going to be guys that sign with Ben Johnson on his staff that are going to bring players with him as well. So ultimately, I think those are the main reasons Ben Johnson signed with the Bears: the quarterback, you know, the roster flexibility, and the cap space and the draft pick. Those are the main reasons he signed with the Bears, in my opinion. Now, I'm not going to spend too much time on what you're getting with Ben Johnson. Basically, you're getting a very creative play caller who uses a lot of play action, a lot of motion in his offense, who's good with young quarterbacks. You know, a guy who's going to cut down sacks from his quarterbacks, a guy who's going to make it easy on quarterbacks to, you know, throw the ball and get yardage. Very creative as a play caller. We've seen that firsthand here at Soldier Field. You know, you're getting the guy who's led the Detroit Lions to almost number one in every advanced offensive metric in the league. Number one in yards per game, number one in points per game, number one in touchdown per drive per game, and number one in red zone touchdown percentage. Ben Johnson, we know he's going to make adjustments as, you know, as a head coach and as an offensive play caller. He's number one in play action usage, in which we all know that Caleb Williams is pretty good on play action. The Bears didn't do that a lot. They were ranked number 30th in the league as far as play action, so they pretty much kept him in the pocket most of the time. Couple that with, you know, they had the highest pre-snap motion at 5th for Detroit, where the Bears ranked 19th. So you're getting a very, you know, creative offensive play caller. He's going to cut down on the sacks. He's going to cut down on the time to throw just because he's so good at calling plays. So that's what you're getting with Ben Johnson, man. A very, very good offensive play coach that can, offensive coach that can develop with your quarterback, who can get your, hopefully, franchise quarterback to the level that he needs to be at. And then you can take this team farther. And with all these weapons, Cole Kmet, DJ Moore, Romo Dunze, Keenan Allen if he stays, you know, DeAndre Swift, you know, maybe adding another offensive weapon or two on that offense. You know, with that type of talent on this team, you can expect good things from this unit going forward. And that's what you're getting with Ben Johnson, a guy who's going to get everybody involved, a guy who's going to draw up stuff more times than not to get yardage and, you know, produce scoring drives. Now, I'm going to go through this really quickly as well. He's also, you know, trying to assemble a staff already. I am told, you know, a source told ESPN that he's already working to get, you know, former head coach of the New Orleans Saints, Dennis Allen, to be the defensive coordinator. You can feel a certain type of way about him as a head coach. Dennis Allen is probably one of the best defensive coordinators that they could hire in this cycle. You know, of course, Aaron Glenn is probably the top, or Brian Flores, but, you know, Dennis Allen is nobody to scoff at. You know, very aggressive play caller, you know, runs the same system as Matt Eberflus did, but with a little bit more of an aggressive touch. Still runs a 4-3, and it's going to maybe bring another player with them as well. Because of Dennis Allen being the favorite for the defensive coordinator job, we're probably going to be linked to a pass rusher, Chase Young, in the offseason, who had a decent year, who probably wanted to be here anyway, because he always talked about coming to the Bears. You're going to have a potential pairing with him with Montez Sweat again. And considering how the Bears really struggled with generating a pass rush and getting to the quarterback, Chase Young signing here would be a breath of fresh air just to put somebody next to Montez Sweat if you can't draft a pass rusher in the draft. So that's going to be good. He also is good with young secondaries as well. And considering we have a Pro Bowl corner in Jalen Johnson, a young impressionable corner in Tyreek Stevenson, who played a little bit better down the stretch of the season, and a guy who really took a big leap, who nobody is talking about, in Kyler Gordon this year. I'm pretty sure that would be a very, very good, hire for the Chicago Bears if they want to keep their defense on the up and up and possibly get it to elite levels of defensive play. Bears are also heavily pursuing Saints interim coach Darren Rizzi as their special teams coordinator, top special teams coordinator on the market. That's not confirmed that they're going to get him, but it is heavily speculated that they are going to get him as well. The Bears are also trying to find a way to get Hank Fraley, the Lions offensive line coach, to come to the team to be their offensive coordinator, I think. The only thing about that is that the Seahawks are going to have a second interview with Hank Fraley for their offensive coordinator job, and he's probably going to want to call plays. So that might not happen, but we'll see. If they're able to pull out a deal for Hank Fraley, that would be three good coaches to go along with Ben Johnson. One of them is very familiar with Ben Johnson's system, so we'll see what's going to happen with that. But he's trying to build a superstar staff here, man. I'm all for it. We need a superstar staff after what happened last year and the disaster that was last season. So ultimately, I'm cool with this move. This was the guy I wanted. This was the guy multiple people wanted, regardless of what, the mainstream media and some of the Bears media, you know who you are. David Kaplan. You know who you are. Just regardless of what they say happens, or how they feel about the move. This was the move the Bears needed to make. They needed a young offensive head coach that can grow with their quarterback. We've seen it did wonders for guys like Sam Darnold, for guys like Jordan Love with Matt LaFleur, Kevin O'Connell with Sam Darnold, Ben Johnson for Jared Goff. Young offensive coaches that can get their quarterbacks in a situation where they can play a little bit better, make Pro Bowls, go into the playoffs, and possibly get multiple winning seasons. This is the move they need to make. This is a coach that's going to hold people accountable, and with the staff that he's trying to build, plus the Bears' ability to have multiple top 40 draft picks, one being in the top 10, $60 million in cap space that will probably grow in the offseason, and a young budding quarterback who just needs a little bit more coaching, who could possibly become elite like Jaden Daniels next season. This was the move you need to make. This was the obvious move that the Bears need to make. I'm happy that the Bears were able to get it done. George McCaskey stepped out the way, let Ryan Poles, let Kevin Warren do his job, and they got it done. He is the seventh highest paid coach in the league right now, making $13 million per year. I don't know if that's explicitly confirmed, but it's heavily speculated. So yeah, man, this is a great move for the Chicago Bears. I'm excited. They finally seem like they're taking steps in the right direction. So we'll see what happens with Ben Johnson and the Chicago Bears going forward. Hopefully he can get this team on the right track, and Chicago can finally be a winning team next year. But ultimately, let me know what you guys think down in the comment section. How do you guys feel about the signing of Ben Johnson to become the Bears head coach? Let me know in the comment section. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please consider subscribing to the channel and liking the video, as it helps your channel grow. Make sure you guys hit that notification bell so you get notified every time I drop one of these Bears videos or any video on this channel. Make sure you guys follow me on social media, as there's always good things going on over there. I'll probably have some more videos coming out soon. I don't know if I'm gonna post a Skyrim video today, but we'll see. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. Bear down, and I'm out. Peace.